Hello everybody and welcome to episode 5 of the Little Black Cat Knitting Podcast. I am your host Ashley, coming at you from New Jersey, where I live with my 2 sons, my husband, and my little black cat. Today is Monday, February 17th, 2020. And yeah. I'll tell you where you can find me. You can find me on Instagram as Gatti Yarn Co, on Etsy as Gatti Yarn Co, on Ravelry as AM Gatti, and there is a group for this podcast on Ravelry. If you just search for the Little Black Cat Knits podcast on Ravelry, you'll find a group for that, which has all the show notes from every episode, along with, you know, any kind of knit-alongs, giveaways, all that. I can't remember if I said this or not, but this is a knitting podcast where I talk about all of my knitting, crochet, cross stitch, and any other crafty things I happen to do. And yeah, let's jump right in. It has been 2 weeks since my last podcast. I didn't really have much to talk about last week, so I decided to put it off for another week. And I still really don't have all that much to show today either. But I did want to get another podcast out. Oh, hello, baby. This is Licorice, my little black cat. You say hi? What are you doing? You say hi? Yep. You're gonna lay on me. So yeah, I don't have any FOs this week. But I have a couple whips, so I guess I will just jump right into those. The first whip I'm going to talk about is living in this hot tub bag because I don't have any project bags big enough for half the things I'm knitting. But anyway, I am working along on, can I help you? On the Hogwarts A Mini History by Megan Regan, or as you guys may know her, Bad Wolf Girl Sits and Knits. Licorice, you're making this very difficult. I'm knitting this for my son Bruce, and I got a little bit further on this second chart here. I've been kind of working on a bunch of things, so everything got like a little bit of work done. But I'm knitting this out of Loops and Threads Impeccable in the Citron and, what is the color of this? Bright Sky Blue colorways. Can I help you? Yes. And like I said, I really need to get some more interchangeable needles because I've been stealing needles from different projects for different things, so everything's kind of like half getting worked on. But yeah, as I said last time, this pattern is written for fingering weight yarn, but the last time I knit this sweater, it didn't work out, so I switched to worsted weight yarn, and it is working out fabulously. And I'm really enjoying knitting it. It's just I've got so many different things I'm working on. So that will bring us into the next whip, which is living in this little bag I made for myself, and it is the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas Socks by Danielle George. I have finished the leg, and I'm about to start the heel flap. I'm knitting this on size US 1, 2.25 millimeter, I think. 9-inch circular Chiaoyu needles, and I'm knitting this in the Loops and Threads Perfect Pair in the Glory Days colorway. I've kind of been using this project as like a palette cleanser almost. When I get like really sick of working on something else, I just pull out the socks. But when I knit socks and I'm like gonna knit like the heel flap and gusset and everything, like I have to sit down and knit it in one sitting. Otherwise I like completely forget where I left off and everything. So because I've been focusing on so many different things, I kind of, you know, did the leg. So next time I pick it up, it's gonna be one straight shot, heel flap, gusset, all that jazz. So yeah, that is that. What else? What's next? Like I said, there's not really much to talk about in this episode. It's been, the biggest thing I'll talk is going to be the last thing I show that I'm going to talk about. But anyway, so the next whip I have is the sweater I'm knitting for my husband Keith. It is the Montrealer by Designs by Dells, and last time I showed it to you, I was still working on the sleeve, but I have one sleeve done, and you know, body and everything, so I just have to knit the next sleeve and then the hood, and then this will be done. And my husband is like begging me for it, and I'm not working on it as much as I should be working on it, because of the final thing I have to show and talk about. But yeah, I am knitting this out of Loops and Threads Impeccable in the Orange Crush and Classic Gray colorways. But yeah, this knit is so fun. I love knitting on it. It's just, you guys know how it goes. Sleeves. I got the one sleeve done, and now I'm just trying to find the motivation to cast on the second sleeve because I hate sleeves. Even though with the stripe pattern on this, it does make the sleeves a little bit easier to work on. Like you don't feel so much like you're stuck on like Sleeve Island, because it's kind of like, you're like, oh, okay, knit so many rows and then I have to switch colors. So it's kind of like, okay, just get to the end of this, get to the end of this. So once I get the sleeves going, it will be probably pretty fast moving. I just have to get going on that. But my knitting mojo has been tested recently to the point where I'm kind of like, I don't even want to look at my knitting needles because of this final thing I have to talk about. Now, I have been working on designing a sweater. I'm just gonna pull up some visual aids here. If you've seen the movie Knives Out with Chris Evans, Chris Evans wears a sweater in this movie that, oh god, the sweater is, it's glorious. I know I got pictures of it somewhere. Basically, when I saw the movie, I knew I wanted that sweater. And I spent a very long time scouring through Ravelry to find a pattern for the sweater, and I couldn't. It was very frustrating. I couldn't find one that was exactly like it. So I said to myself, you know what? I'm just gonna design it myself. And that's what I am attempting to do. I spent hours and hours and hours researching which stitch patterns are in this sweater and everything. So if you haven't seen the movie, this is the sweater I am talking about. It is glorious and beautiful and cabled and looks so comfy. So yeah, this thing is gonna be the death of me. So I started it 2 weeks ago, and I thought I had all the math right, cast it on, knit the bottom ribbing. I had 10 stitches too many. Ripped it out, redid my math, started again. Got a couple rows, about halfway through the cable patterning on the sweater, and realized that there were too many purl stitches in between each of the cable panels. The center cable panel wasn't looking right, so I had to rip it out again. And did some more math. Removed some of the purl stitches, figured everything out, got the ribbing done, got through the first 2 rows of the cable patternings. The side panels looked perfect, the center panel was too small. So I ripped it out again. And thankfully it only needed an extra 16 stitches to make the center panel exactly what I'm looking for. So I ripped it out down to the cast on row, cast on 16 more stitches, and knit the first row of the 1x1 ribbing. And then I said to myself, I don't ever want to knit 1x1 ribbing ever again. So yeah, I'm knitting this on US size 6 4mm needles and US size 8, which I believe is a 5mm needle. And it's been hell. But I'm determined because I want this sweater so darn bad. And part of my problem is because I'm going off of the reference pictures of Chris Evans wearing this sweater, this initial sample is basically essentially going to be Chris Evans sized. So it's a fairly large stitch count. And because I'm designing it to be knit bottom up in pieces and then seamed together, and oh boy, got my work cut out for me. I never want to knit 1x1 ribbing ever again. It's terrible. But I am knitting it out, if I can find the ball band in my mess of notes. I'm knitting it out, Red Heart Super Saver Jumbo in the Aran colorway. So, yeah, you know, I'm just ripped it out so many times. I want to scream. But yeah, I'm hoping by the next time I podcast, I will have something more than one row of ribbing to show on this thing. But like I said, I never want to knit ribbing again, especially because of how many stitches this is right now. I think it's 230, I don't know. It is 236 stitches, and that's just for the back panel. I'm starting with the back panel, and then I'll work the front panel, and then the sleeves and all that jazz. So it's gonna be pretty big, considering the front and back panel are both 236 stitches. It's gonna be huge on me. I'm gonna be swimming in it, but that's okay, because once I get this down and make sure all the numbers are right and the stitches or the stitch panels are lining up properly and everything that goes into this, I'm hoping I'll be able to grade it down to other size, you know, smaller sizes and stuff, and then have one that fits me properly. My husband keeps telling me he wants one, and he's like, well, why don't you just knit it to my size? And I'm trying to explain to him that because I'm basing it off of this picture of Chris Evans in the sweater, I'm trying to make sure that the number of panels is proper and whatever. So it's gonna be a Chris Evans size sweater. And yeah, this has been taking up a majority of my knitting time just because I have had to rip it out so many times. So yeah, it's been killing me. What is going on here? Tell me I counted the stitches wrong again. I can't. If I have to rip this out one more time, I'm gonna scream. But yeah, that's that. This has been taking up the majority of my time because, like I said, I've had to rip it out so many times. I've done so much math. It's terrible. And I have so many other things I want to be working on. Like, I want to finish Bruce's Hogwarts mini history. I have to get Keith's Montreal done. I still haven't started the sweaters for my best friend's daughter. I really want to get going on those, but all in due time. But yeah, so since that sweater has been the bane of my existence and I needed to put my knitting away for a while, I decided to work on some cross stitch, because I just needed to do something crafty, but I needed it to not be knitting because that sweater has ruined my life. But yeah, so that's all the knitting talk. I'm gonna get into a little bit of cross stitching. It's really not much. But yeah, so I have been working on this Captain America cross stitch by Oh My Stitches shop on Etsy. I would show you the printed pattern, but it's the actual pattern, so you know, Um, let's see. I've gotten a pretty decent amount done on it. So before I picked it up the other day, I was up here, that row with the first two squares of the white, so this row below it and on is what I have gotten done over the past couple days. I'm just using the called for DMC threads for it. It's been pretty, pretty mindless to work on right now because it's all just this blue. It's just been just this blue for right now. I'm trying, the way I do my stitching is I try to complete one color first and then move on to the next color. Like I don't, it's like weird. I don't do it in like sections, if that makes sense. Like I literally will I start at the top left and then I go, and whatever the first color is that I pick, I start there and then I just use that color until it's completely done and then move on. Well, at least in pieces like this. My Hocus Pocus cross stitch that I was working on, that one I've just kind of been going row by row. I really guess it just depends on the pattern, but because there's so much of this blue, I've been just trudging along on it. I'm stitching this on 14 count white Aida, nothing crazy. Yeah, it's been living in this little knitting bag because I only have one cross stitch project bag, and the cross stitch that I'm making for my mother-in-law that was supposed to be for Christmas, but then I miscounted and had to like rip things out. That's living in that bag, and I actually just had to order from Fat Quarter Shop for some more embroidery floss for that, and that should be coming soon, so maybe I can get back to work on that. I don't know. That's pretty much all the crafting I've been doing. Like I said, that Knives Out sweater, it's gonna kill me. And I just went to try to continue on the ribbing, and I think I may have one too many stitches. And if that's the case, it's gonna be very stressful for me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's not a long episode this week because I really haven't gotten much done. If that sweater had worked out the first time I started it, maybe there would be a little bit more to show, but yeah, that's pretty much it as far as crafty stuff goes. If that's all you came here for, then thanks for stopping by. I guess I'll do a little bit of life update now. I mean, there really hasn't been too much going on in the past 2 weeks. My husband's birthday was the 12th, and we just kind of, you know, hung out, watched a movie, ordered some food. Nothing too crazy because it was on a Wednesday. And then, what else? Valentine's Day was Friday, and we didn't really do much there either. We kind of just caught up on our shows and ordered some pizza. Saturday we had a couple friends over to celebrate Keith's birthday. It wasn't anything too crazy. Yesterday we went out to dinner for his birthday with his mom, with the kids, and then today Bruce has off from school today and tomorrow, so and Keith is off work on Mondays, so this morning I had to take Paul for a follow-up flu shot. And that kid, let me tell you, you would never known he got a shot today. He got a shot, cried for like 30 seconds, and he was like, he's good. So when I came home with him, Keith went and took Bruce to go see the new Sonic movie. That's where they're at now, and I think they're going to get some lunch. I'm hoping to get to Barnes & Noble today. That would be fantastic because I want to pick up some new books. Because me and Keith and his mom have a reading competition every year where we see who reads the most books throughout the year and who reads the most pages. Last year I did terrible. I think I finished one book, which is like so unlike me. Normally I am like a huge reader and I read all the time. I'm doing much better this year. So far I've read 2 books. and I was going to start a third. I decided I wanted to reread the Percy Jackson series, so I read the first 2 of those, and then I pulled out the third one, and I just haven't started it, and I've been thinking, like, kind of in the mood for something new, so yeah, I gotta get to Barnes & Noble, even though I've got that bookshelf right there completely full of books I still haven't read, but you know, if you're a reader, you get it. You go and you just want to get all the books. It just is what it is. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Nothing too crazy has been going on. Life has been pretty, you know, monotonous. Not really monotonous, just pretty much a lot of the same, you know. Keith goes to work, Bruce goes to school, I'm home with Paul, you know, normal stuff. Get my knitting done, design a sweater, rip it out 5 times. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me for this little bit of time this week. Like I said, next week, hopefully there will be more. Yeah, I think that's it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you want to, you know, hang out with me some more in the next week or 2, depending on how much content I have. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye.